Hello, Amber here for Elevage Wine Coaching. It's just me today because right now it's still way early over in the Pacific Northwest, in California where Noel is. I swear I haven't been drinking today. It's only midday for me. But here I am doing the recap for Thursday's Blind Tasting Benchmark Region Challenge Mystery Grape, which I gave the answer. It's over on the Elevage Wine Coaching feed, and it was Dolcetto. So let's review the clues that I gave Thursday and kind of see how we can connect theory to them to bring us to Dolcetto. Because this is definitely a wine that is worth knowing about. It's one that examiners really, really love this grape. Even though, like, when I was back in the U.S., it was kind of hard to find a good Dolcetto. You know, Nebbiolo, Barolo, Barbaresco, yep. Barbera is fairly easy to find. Just about any good Italian restaurant would have Barbera. Dolcetto was a little overlooked, but here in the UK, you find it a lot easier, so it kind of makes sense then why the examiners, especially for a lot of organizations that are UK-based, tend to go with it. So let's look at the clues and see how we would have gotten to Dolcetto. So the clues. Clue 1 was both red and black cherries. Clue 2, damson plums, so kind of an aromatic plum. Clue 3, mixed berries, blackberries, blueberries, raspberries. So already off the bat, we have a mix of fruits, red fruits, blue fruits, black fruits. So in the back of your mind, when you get that mix versus just all red fruit or all dark fruit, you should start thinking of a couple things, namely climate. In Piedmont, we have a moderate continental climate. It's got warm, it's got a little cooling influence. You know, it's kind of that Goldilocks there. And so especially for an early ripening variety like Dolcetto, that can get you that mix. Because the longer it hangs on the vine, it's moving from red fruit to the darker fruits on that. So you don't have to harvest it really early. All red fruit, you can let it hang, get a little bit more intensity to it. In Piedmont, Dolcetto often gets some of the little cooler spots there because Nebbiolo is a late ripening grape. Definitely want to give that the best spots to give it more longer hang time. Barbera is a little bit more mid-ripening, so it can hang a little longer, a little warmer spots. But Dolcetto, plant it. It'll ripen. So when you see a mix of flavors, mix of fruits, again, start thinking about what is causing that for me to have a mix of red fruits, blue fruits, and black fruits. Clue 4 was black licorice on it. So a little spice, a little bit of the fruity candied, but black licorice, so that aspect. Clue 5 was one that I don't really know where I got this from, but somewhere I came about with Dolcetto to kind of look for it, and it started pinging for me, was cherry cough syrup. Back in the States, also I was thinking like the Luden, little cherry cough drops is one that pops up. It's a little candied, but it's not candied. And there's a little herbal and a little medicinal, but not quite herbal. That's where cherry cough syrup kind of falls for me, and using my own terminology. Because with a lot of Italian varieties, cherry you get anywhere. So if you have like an Italian wine, write cherry in your notes with that. There's gonna be a cherry of some sort. But there's often a little bit of an herbal component. And Dolcetto is not going to be as herbal as Barbera or Nebbiolo can get, but there is some. It's still an Italian red grape. And so again, for me, that's where the cherry cough syrup kind of hit that note well for me with pinging that in blind tastings. And then the 6th clue was violets, so another floral note. So predominantly we have, for the most part, a kind of fruit-forward wine. It's still going to be an old world wine. There's still going to be a savoriness. It's not going to necessarily end on fruit like a lot of the new world wines will. But this is one that you think of it, putting yourself in the shoes of a winemaker, you're thinking more fruit. How do you preserve that fruit? And we'll get back to that. But let's go on to the structure clues. Deep ruby to medium purple. Dolcetto is a grape that can give off color. It usually has a fairly short maceration time, like 5 to 7 days, because you can easily get plenty of color. Medium to medium plus intensity. Medium minus to medium acid. And this should have been pinging some red flags off. Usually when you are thinking about Italian red grapes, higher acid. That tends to be the nature for a lot of Italian red grapes. Higher acid. Think about it, the food. kind of the food and wine pairing that emerged over centuries. A higher acid red grape to go with some of the things like tomato dish. Those cancel each other out well and allowing the flavor from the dish to come out and the flavor from the wine. So it just naturally lends itself a lot towards those higher acids. So Dolcetto, being more on the moderate to low end of acid, that is very distinctive. And that's probably why examiners love putting this in tasting flights. Some of the past few Piedmont flights that they did for the WSET diploma, it featured a Barolo, so high tannins, high acid Nebbiolo, very complex. Agave from the Cortese grape, so citrusy, a little fresh white, but can have some complexity. And then a Dolcetto with that lower acid, a little bit more fruit floral profile, maybe a little bit more purple in the color to compare to the garnet and the more paler ruby of the Nebbiolo. That's a good flight. It's a flight that has a lot of clues that can jump out to you to lead you to Piedmont and these grapes on it. So again, with Dolcetto, that lower acid, medium minus to medium. But tannins, though, on the other hand, is usually firm tannins, medium plus to high tannins. The nickname for Dolcetto, little sweet one, I think confuses a lot of people because they're expecting it, sweet or to be softer. Well, it is a little softer because that lower acid, compared to the higher acid Barbera and the higher acid Nebbiolo, but those tannins are there. It's got presence, it's got structure, it's got that little firm, bitter bite towards the end, which is another trademark of a lot of Italian reds. That little bitterness, those flavors play really well, again, with Italian cuisine. Medium bodied, medium to high alcohol. And then quality level I put is good to very good, inexpensive to mid-price. It's kind of a bistro wine, especially with that relatively more fruit-forward aspect of it. So when to tie some more theory in, if you're a winemaker making a Dolcetto, what are some of the things you would be doing? For one, you'd probably be doing a lot of stainless steel. You don't necessarily want the oak to detract from those mixed berries of fruit, those nice floral notes. Though Dolcetto can be a little reductive, so you got to be a little careful with that, especially with stainless steel. So you will often see pump overs to give it a nice aeration. And the benefit of doing a pump over versus a punch down is you're a little bit more gentle with the tannin extraction because Dolcetto is already really, really high tannins. So you'd be more inclined to do a pump over to get you the air and less tannins, while Barbera would actually be a little bit switched. Barbera is a little bit lower in tannins, so let's punch down that Barbera and extract some more tannins on it. You'd also probably do your fermentation temperature more in the mid-range, like 17 to 24 degrees Celsius versus cooler temperatures or the warmer temperatures. For me as an American that grew up with Fahrenheit, thinking in Celsius for wine studies really helped a lot because I can associate them with ages. So I think of 17 to 24-year-old, kind of the mid-range of like the high school, college years. That's a nice little sweet comfort spot. And not until you're old do you realize how great those years really were. That makes sense for a lot of wines. A lot of premium wines tend to fall in that mid-range on there because you're maintaining the fruit, but you're not going overboard. If you go warmer, 25, 26 degrees Celsius and warmer, you're extracting a lot of color and a lot of tannin. There's a lot of intensity, but you're kind of losing the fruit, the joy of life. You're losing that. You think once you get out of college and you're into the fire of real life and having to be an adult on your own, yeah, it's kind of intense, and you do kind of lose that joy that you had back in those high school and college years. You go with a cool ferment, you're thinking you're 12 to 16 degrees Celsius. That's kind of like your middle school, high school years. And again, I'm speaking from an American point of view. Those things, when you're fermenting at those temperatures, you think a lot of rosés, a lot of aromatic whites. You're doing that to maintain the fruity esters and kind of those simple aromas. And you think again, kind of the simple part of life back in those middle school, high school years, 12 to 16. That's kind of what the benefit of cooler fermentations are. A lot of more complex aromatic whites or more complex rosés, sweet 16 degrees Celsius. That's a good little nugget to file in the back of your brain. That's a really good fermentation temperature because it's cool. So you're maintaining the floral notes, a little bit of the esters, a little bit of the fruit, but you're getting a little bit more of the complexity as you're slowly entering into that mid-range. So those are things to think about when you're on an exam, trying to remember just a little added details to put about winemaking: cool, medium, and warm fermentations. The use of each one is a little different, and so you kind of add that little nugget of information. And I think that is about it for what I have about Dolcetto on that. So short little video, little clue recap. I'll just repeat that one more time. Red and black cherries, damson plum, mixed berries, blackberries, blueberries, raspberries, black licorice, cherry cough syrup, violets, deep ruby to medium purple, medium to medium plus intensity, medium minus to medium acid. Big thing with Dolcetto. Firm, medium plus to high tannins, medium bodied, medium to high alcohol. So if you haven't had a Dolcetto lately, grab one, revisit it, and see what you think about it. Have a good one, and I will let you guys know with the next Mystery Grape coming up here soon.